I met Paul probably 10 or 12 years ago in Washington, D.C., and we just kind of hit it off. But the more we talked, the more we realized that our lives kind of dovetailed together.
So I knew Paul through Pinnacle Credit Union, as well as his participation in the Hike the Hill events that the New Jersey Credit Union League would do. And Paul was one of those rare volunteers that really, truly gave of his time at these Hike the Hill events.
You know, Paul's journey towards the Lifetime Achievement Award started way back before his involvement with Pinnacle Federal Credit Union, formerly known as SGC, Supermarkets General Corp Federal Credit Union.
He had an unbelievable sense of humor. He joked about everything, but he always told stories about his family. And it was a family that kept him so grounded and so happy. Paul was a happy guy. It was all because of his family.
While living in Bergenfield, New Jersey, Paul was a member of the local chapter of the Lions Club. Later, while living in Woodcliff Lake, he was elected to the Borough Council. He served as fire commissioner. He was the past president of the Woodcliff Lakes Unico, a service organization whose motto was service above self. And that described Paul perfectly.
He wasn't just a volunteer showing up at a board meeting and putting in his time, if you will. He went above and beyond. And that's a rare trait that's hard to find these days.
He was also past president of the Woodcliff Lake Education Foundation, which honored him as the Person of the Year in 2008, was the deputy coordinator of the Office of Emergency Management, and volunteered on Woodcliff Lake's Community Emergency Response Team.
Then a couple of weeks later, I'm on a Zoom call, and this is early Zoom before the pandemic hit. I'm on a Zoom call, and I get a text on my phone. It says, it's Paul. It says, is that you in the lower right-hand corner? Call was for the Pompton Lake CERT team, Citizens Emergency Response Team. The CERT team just supports the police and the first aid squad and the fire department. I'm on a CERT team in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. Paul's on his CERT team in his hometown of Bergen County. And it was a boring, long, drag-ass meeting. Me and Paul are laughing, and everybody else is just sitting there like this. But it was funny. We just hit it off.
Paul was also a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. He served as a past commander of his flotilla and as well as the finance officer of his division. He also served on the state of New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance Credit Union Advisory Council.
You know, I said we dovetail our lives together, and eventually, to prove that, we ended up being nominated by Governor Christie and then confirmed by the New Jersey State Senate to serve on the Credit Union Advisory Council in Trenton. And after several meetings down there, we just realized that we both drive the same roads to get to Trenton in the morning, and there's a better way. We should just carpool.
Paul was one of those rare volunteers that really, truly gave of his time at these Hike the Hill events. And most importantly, he really participated. He shared the perspective of a volunteer with our politicians. And it was very important because typically it's paid professionals like myself that would be at these events. But when somebody like Paul is there and actually shares what the credit union means, what the industry means to himself as well as other members, it's very, very powerful in the eyes of our politicians. And he was one of the unsung heroes that really contributed greatly to our movement over the years.
Above all, Paul was a humanitarian. He did not simply join civic organizations. He actively participated and was often involved in a leadership role.
Paul was the chairman of the board for Pinnacle Federal Credit Union, and they're considering making a CEO change. So we had a little confidential meeting. We met for coffee one day, and he wanted to ask me about one of the candidates that I knew very well because I worked for him many years ago at Piccadilly. So I thought he was going to ask me about the candidate's qualifications. You know, how smart is he? Does he understand the credit union business? And Paul didn't ask any of those questions. This candidate knew the industry inside out. He knew the right people. He knew everybody. Paul was more concerned with how was he as a person? How did he treat his subordinates? Did he get along with other people? Was he a kind person? And of course, he was all those things. But that tells me more about Paul than anything. He cared about getting the right person that was going to fit in nicely, and he wanted somebody that was kind. And he got that person, by the way.
Paul's humoristic approach allowed him to communicate with all levels of the organization. He was always concerned about employees and the members. Paul's motto was, happy employee, happy members.
Paul cared about the culture and the other employees at Pinnacle than really getting the job done and finding a CEO.
Paul, when he spoke with our political friends in Washington, he really spoke from the heart. He told them stories about the day-to-day impact as a person who's boots on the street, as a member, listening to members, working with our members, and shared those stories in a very heartfelt and earnest way, and honest way.
After our very last meeting in Trenton, we said, hey, Paul was going to drive to my house, and we were going to drive down together, have our meeting, and then go to lunch and just kind of make a day of it. But then the pandemic hit, and we never got to share that ride. It never happened.
I would like to thank him for his dedication to the movement. Often when you're involved and you're going through the meetings and all that's entailed around that, we tend to just get together, we do what we need to do, and we then break apart. But spending the time just to say the words, thank you for being there, and thank you for sharing, are often missed today. And I would just like to thank him for being Paul and being part of this wonderful movement.
I would thank him. I would thank him for his friendship and for his encouragement, his kind words.
I wish Paul was here to accept this honor. But for those who knew him well, let's get a hot dog in his honor.